So business cycles. So the term has already been described by various people in differently. So some people said that business cycle, as we know from the first chapter of macroeconomics, it is the term, or it's a it's a kind of short run fluctuation that is used to describe expansions and contractions in economic activity over the period of time. But you know that these expansion and contractions are for the shorter period of time. And what is the job of economists? Why macroeconomists are concerned about like quantifying these short run and temporary fluctuations in the form of expansion and contraction? Because expansion means economy is going to expand in terms of output, production, employment, and income. So it means that production and consumption both are going to rise in expansion. Whereas when the economy is going through a bad time, which is called contraction or recession, economy is going to underperform. All the industries are going to perform like produce lower output. They will be employing lower quantity of worker. There would be lower income. There would be lower production. So in this way, business cycle is a term that is used by economists to describe the short run ups and downs that the economy of a country faces over the period of time. So this is what the basic idea of it. Now, once they know when the economy is going to experience a peak or the boom, and when the economy is going to experience a trough, based on the data they have like data of various other variables they have. So they try to predict when the peak and trough is going to occur, and based on that prediction, that they are going to use the government policy so that output loss that takes place in recession and unemployment that increases in recession time can be minimized to a manageable degree. So that is why we will then bring in the ideas of Keynesians and classicals into the discussion of business cycle. We'll be explaining the view that classical view that is the short run deviation or short run gap between consumption and production. Production means supply and consumption means demand. So we are talking about aggregate production and consumption. So classical view is that the short run deviation in production and consumption will be adjusted very quickly because of the assumption that prices and wages are quickly adjustable. So market would be self correcting. So because all the markets in the country are quickly adjustable against the gap between demand and supply. So it means that government role is minimized, and government does not need to intervene to minimize the gap between demand and supply. So basically classical say that business cycle will be adjusted by the market forces itself. So like whenever there's a contraction in economic activity, the markets in the economy would adjust themselves. There's no need of government intervention. So it means that classicals are discouraging the role of government in managing the business cycle, whereas classical the opponents of classical Keynesian have provided the idea that we cannot let the uh, markets or let the economy on the mercy of self-correcting behavior of the markets, because in the short run it might be possible. They agree that in the long run economy will be having self-correcting mechanism like what classicals have said, but they are denying that in the short run leaving the economy at the mercy of the market might cause a huge loss in output and may result in a larger unemployment like it did in 1930s Great Depression. So they are asking for government intervention to minimize the gap between, to minimize the severity of recession by allowing government to spend money on people, give them purchasing power so that they can buy goods and service. In this way, economy will get out of the recession. So this is what the main takeaway of our discussion are. This is what we are going to discuss in our chapter. First, we'll be describing what do we mean by business cycle, explaining it from the two famous economists who describe the definition of the business cycle. So this chapter has got like these are the goals of chapter 8. Basic features of business cycle. We'll be talking about the definition and basic concept of business cycle, and then we'll be talking about brief history of US business cycle. Now US is not relevant to us because we are living in a different country. We are living in a poor country comparatively to US. So, but this concept is useful to us because it helps us in understanding what kind of cycles we are experiencing. But we'll look into US history very briefly, not very uh, uh, in a very detailed manner. And then we'll come back to talk about the business cycle characteristics, like the cyclical behavior of various economic variable, which is also important to understand the business cycle. So we'll be talking about it, like some student uh, helped us in understanding like the timing and the movement of behavior over the period of time. Like if you would have read the book, there's a famous economist statement called Lucas. So we will talk about him. And then in the last, we'll be talking about aggregate demand and supply, the analysis of business cycle, like when the economy is hit by a recession due to any reason. So how the government should respond to manage that recession. So we'll be bringing in the discussion of classicals and Keynes in understanding how government should react when the economy is experiencing a recession or economy is experiencing a boom. So we will be understanding that in this chapter. So let's get started. So in US, the research on business cycle. So the first concern that we are going to address is understand what do we mean by the term business cycle. So the term business cycle means short run contraction and expansion in economic activity, aggregate economic activity of a country. What does that mean? If we would make it simpler, we would say that uh, the short run ups and downs in economic activity are reflected by the business cycle. So business cycle is a are the type of fluctuations that aggregate economic activity of a country experience over the period of time. Uh, now, in US economy, this business cycle research started in 1920. So they developed a institute called National Bureau of Economic Research, and this institute is comprised of world's best US or world's best leading economists who have the job of compiling the data on understanding the business cycle that are happening in US and other industrialized countries. So the two famous economists who have like provided the basic idea based on five main definitions or five components of definition of business cycle are Burns and Michel. So these two people have provided the basic definition of business cycle in 1946. So they started from the first part of their definition is business cycles are fluctuations of aggregate economic activity, not a specific variable. Now, what does that mean? When we say that business cycles are fluctuations of aggregate economic activity. Generally, people measure aggregate economic activity with real GDP. But these two economists have the opinion that it's not real GDP is not the only variable that you need to use to observe the fluctuation in aggregate economic activity. Like when the real GDP is going down, it is obvious that economy is experiencing through a bad time, and when the real GDP is rising, it means that economy is going through a good time. But there are other variables that you also need to bring into consideration when you talk about business cycle. And what are those variables? Financial market variable like stock prices and uh, the employment as well. So with the real GDP, if the employment is going up, if the real GDP is going up, employment is going up, and the stock prices are also going up, we can say that economy is going through a good time. So the fluctuation that economy is experiencing can be called as expansion, right? So this is what these two economists have tried to emphasize with their first component of definition, that is business cycle fluctuation. Business cycles are fluctuations of aggregate economic activity, not a specific variable like GDP, real GDP. Second point they have provided is there are expansions and contractions. So expansion means economic activity is improving, expanding, output is expanding, production is rising, income is rising, unemployment is falling, employment is rising. Whereas contraction means output is falling, production is falling, employment is falling, income is falling. So these two are the um, like uh, phases through which economic activity passes in a fixed period of time. So aggregate economic activity declines in a contraction. When aggregate economic activity grows very slowly or declines, we call it contraction or recession, until it reaches a minimum lowest point called trough. So what does that mean? It means that we are trying to quantify the aggregate economic activity that is passing through various episodes. And what are those episodes, or what are those phases? First phase is when the economic activity seems to be falling or growing very slowly. We are calling it as contraction or recession. And when the economic activity reaches to a minimum point, we are calling it a trough. And when that trough lasts for longer period of time, it converts into a depression. So severity of recession is when the severity of recession increases, we call it depression. And then when the economic activity is increasing, uh, like after expansion, like expansion and boom are the same. When the economic activity seems to be expanding, production is rising, income is rising, employment is rising. So we would say that uh, stock prices are rising. We would say that economy is expanding or experiencing a boom until it reaches to a maximum point. So peak and trough are opposite to each other. Peak is a maximum point that you will see in this diagram. Like if you need to see it, if you need to see like the various phases of the business cycle. So here we have on the vertical axis, we have aggregate economic activity, and on the horizontal axis, we have time. This dotted line is a long run GDP. This is called what? Long run GDP or normal growth path. So this is a long run growth path. In long run, GDP will rise in on this path, but in short run, the GDP might deviate from this long run growth path in this way. When GDP declines, so this decline in GDP or aggregate economic activity is contraction. When aggregate economic activity in the short run is reaching to a minimum point, we are calling it as trough. And when the after the trough, there is an improvement or expansion in the economic activity, which we can call recovery or expansion. After expansion, economic activity keeps on expanding until it reaches to a maximum point, which can be called as a peak. So you can say that uh, the aggregate economic activity generates a cycle by passing through by passing through two kinds of phases. From trough to peak is one cycle. From trough to peak is what? One cycle. And if you would see that after arriving at the peak, the economic activity again starts falling. So again, economy is contracting and until it reaches to a trough. And after a trough, it would again improve, expand, and then until it reaches to a maximum point. So there is another cycle. So what they have described, Michel and Burns have described this idea like the movement or the movement of economic activity, or the fluctuation, deviation of economic activity from its maximum value, that is long run growth path, uh, is called business cycle, and it's a short run fluctuation. So they have described it in this way. So a particularly severe recession is called depression. the sequence from one peak to the next or from one trough to the next. So what is called business cycle? So this is another way. So there's a sequence, like from one trough to another is cycle, from, like what they have said is from one peak to the next. So from one peak to the next is one cycle, like from one peak to the to another peak there is one cycle. So this is what they are calling business cycle, and from one trough to another trough is also cycle. So this is what they have these this is the idea that this is what the expansion and contraction of economic activity that they use to summarize the idea of business cycle. And peaks and troughs are turning points. And why they are called turning points? Like you can see that this trough is a turning point. Why it is called a turning point? Because right after the turning point, economic activity changes the direction, changes its direction. Like earlier it was falling, and after trough it starts rising, and after peak, after arriving at the peak, this peak is called turning point, because before peak there was improvement in the aggregate economic activity, and right after the peak the aggregate economic activity starts falling. That is why the peak and trough are called the turning points, and sequence from one trough to another trough is called business cycle, or sequence from one peak to another peak is called uh, the business cycle. All right. So third point is economic variables show co-movement. Third point in definition of business cycle is the idea that economic variables show co-movement. Now, first we need to understand what is co-movement. Co-movement means the when the when economic variables like investment, government purchases, employment, variables like these are moving in the same direction of the business cycle. When the business cycle, when the economy is, aggregate economic activity is expanding, government purchase is expanding, employment is expanding, the income of the people is expanding. So we would say that there's a co-movement of these variables, like they are moving in the same direction of the business cycle. So economic variables show co-movement. They have regular and predictable patterns over, like they have regular and predictable patterns of behavior over the business cycle. Like uh, when you have to see whether the economy is experiencing a business cycle or not, you need to see the data on such variables like employment, stock prices, government purchases, interest rate. So you would be able to know whether the economy is if the, like these variables, some of the variables are going to co-move in the direction of business cycle. So when the economic activity is expanding, government purchase income seems to be expanding. So this is a sign that, and they, that is why it is said that they have regular and predictable pattern, because they are moving in the same direction of business cycle. So they have predictable pattern with which economists can at least give a brief rough idea that whether the economy is going to contract or it is going to improve. Like in recession government purchases increase, in recession employment falls, in recession interest rate goes up, so in recession stock prices are going to fall, in recession investment is going to fall. So these variables already have predictable pattern that various people can use to understand whether economy is going through a business cycle or not. So this is a third main component of the definition. Fourth component of the business cycle's definition is business cycle is recurrent but not periodic. Now, periodic means business cycle itself is not predictable. It does not occur at a fixed period of time. It has an irregular pattern. It can occur at any time and because of any reason. So recurrent means the pattern of contraction. So these are the phases: contraction, trough, expansion or peak. Like after contraction there's a trough, and after expansion there's a peak. So this is a fixed pattern. This occur again and again, but this pattern is not predictable. This is unpredictable. It is not regular. So this pattern, like these are the phases with which phases of economic activity, aggregate economic activity in every country passes through these four phases: contraction, and then trough, and after trough there's an expansion, and the maximum point is peak. So this occur again and again, but this is not periodic. It means that it does not occur at regular and predictable intervals. If it would have been predictable, then why it is the some economies have performed better than others, and there would be one fit solution for all the economies. Like whenever they go into recession, same policy would bring the same result in almost all of the world economy. But this is not the case, because some countries have got a longer time period in expansion, and a longer time period in others have got longer time period in contraction and trough. So this is how countries are very different, even though they have a common feature that is business cycle. Every country faces business cycle, but the time period of expansion and contraction might vary depending on the nature of the country. Last point, which is a part of definition, is the business cycle is persistent. What does that mean? It means that when the economy, when the business cycle, when the aggregate economic activity is improving, it will continue to improve. And when economic activity is declining, it will continue to decline. What does that mean? You can see it from this diagram. Persistence means there's a continuous pattern. Like there's a, like it started falling in this time and started falling until it reaches to a trough point. And after the trough, it continues to improve until it reaches to a peak point. So this is called persistence. So when economic activity is falling, it will continue to fall. And when economic activity starts to improve, it will continue to improve. This is called a fixed behavior that seems to be continuous in nature. So the business cycle, the fifth part of the basic definition of business cycle is business cycles are persistent, which means declines are followed by further declines and growth is followed by more growth. So because of the persistence nature of the business cycle, forecasting turning points is quite important. The NBER, the National Bureau of Economic Research in US, performs the job of forecasting these turning points. Once they know the turning points, they can make the policies of government accordingly to reduce the impact on other economic variables in the country. Like they can control the unemployment and loss of output that resulted from recession, or they can control inflation that might have resulted uh, because of the peak in the, when the economy is expanding, income is expanding, production is expanding. At every peak, economy is also going to experience an inflation rate. So boom and recession both are undesirable condition. So what is the job of economists? The job of policymaker is to minimize the gap between actual GDP and potential GDP. This is what they do with policies, macroeconomic policies, that we are going to look in next chapters. So I guess so we left our discussion by all right. So we just ended our discussion by describing the basic idea of business cycle, and I told you that it's the deviation of a country's aggregate economic activity from its potential long run level. So deviation can be larger, deviation can be smaller, depending on the country and the factors that have caused that deviation. So after that, after describing the basic idea of business cycle, now we will look into the like This is a case study in which it has been described like how the GDP, actual GDP, like we have trend and actual GDP. Trend means long run GDP, actual GDP means current year GDP. And we have time here. This is for the US economy. You can see that uh, like before 1950, trend and actual GDP are same. So trend is a dotted line here, and actual GDP is the current year's GDP. So you can see that this trend, actual GDP has slightly declined in this year 50, and then it went up. So you can see that it continues to expand, and then it reaches to peak. After that, it has declined. So you can see that smaller gap between actual and potential GDP. This is business cycle, and again it keeps on. Again, it goes back to same potential, and then it falls, and then it goes up. So this pattern keeps on going. So you would find out that here the gap has been increased. So actual GDP has declined in some years, and then it has remained stable in other years, and here you can see that the gap has increased. So this seems to be a larger recession. So this is a way of describing, this is another way of describing the business cycle with actual data. So the graph that you saw here is based on theoretical idea of business cycle, right? And this graph is based on actual idea, like the one that I was trying to show you, that let's say in 1975, uh, the in 1975, the peak economy is actual and potential GDP. Like potential is fixed, but actual GDP is equal to potential. And then right after 1975, or right after 1975, economy started actual GDP started contracting, and it reached to a trough. So you can see that this is a trough. So peak and trough are being represented here at the same time, so that you can see how this cycle began and where it ended, and how the economy again recovered right after 75. So this is a way of describing the business cycle using the actual data of actual GDP and the potential GDP or expected GDP. Now, so NBER, National Bureau of Economic Research, do the job of compiling the data on business cycle. So this is not our concern, because we don't have similar organizations, because we are not a very advanced economy. So we have a smaller amount of research being performed on business cycles. So I'm not going to talk about these. I'll directly come to the history, two historical events that were major for the US economy. The first one was the Great Depression of 1920. So it was the worst economic contraction that was experienced by the US economy in 1930. And why it was the worst kind of recession? Because one of the macroeconomic indicator, which is real GDP, declined nearly 30% from the peak in August 1929. And it declined to trough, it reached to trough in 1933. So real GDP declined by 30%. Another macroeconomic variable that was indicating that economy was severely affected by the depression is the unemployment. So unemployment rate increased from 3% to 25% in in this period, 1929 to 33. Thousands of bank failed, so banking system collapsed, stock market collapsed, many farmers were bankrupt. So there were no buyers, so the farmers started bankrupting, and international trade was halted. So these are the variables that you need to that we are considering as a supporting argument to justify that how severe the US economy was hit from by the Great Depression that lasted almost 10 years. So what economists like NBER has done, they said that in Great Depression, US economy's business cycle went through two different cycles. So a contraction from August 1929 to March 1933, followed by an expansion that peaked in 1937 and that lasted for 43 months. So you see, initially it started with a severe contraction, which led to a decline in 30% of real GDP and increase in 25% unemployment. And these are the other variables that we will talk about. And then a contraction again started from May 39 to June 1938. And US economy started recovering fully from that recession in 1940. So almost it, like you can see, if we say that it started from 1929 and it lasted up to 39, almost 10 years, it was the worst ever recession that lasted 10 years. And you see that uh, like recovery from recession was possible, was made possible from like, because in after 33 economy again started improving up to 37, and then in 37 again it went back, it declined, and the recession again was reverted back. Our economy started improving after 38. So this was the first major event in the US economic history uh, that raised various concerns and questions over the study of macroeconomics, because it was very much unpredictable how long the recession is going to last. And in at that time period, Keynesians were of the Keynesians provided the idea that we can fight that recession by allowing government to intervene in a way that government can create employment, government can run project, government can increase aggregate demand, because government can raise the production by spending the money on setting industries, by allowing people, by providing cash transfers to families so that they can get some money and use that money to buy goods and services. So in this way, economy revived after the intervention of government. And before that, every recession was believed to be corrected by market forces itself. But this was the Great Depression that shook the US economy very badly. That classical the belief that was the belief that prevailed earlier before this depression, that markets have the capacity to correct themselves very quickly, and recession might not last that longer period of time. So this was view earlier, but it changed right after the beginning of Great Depression, which almost lasted 10 years. So another event that is very important in US economic history was World War II. So US is a war-driven economy. When the World War was going on in from 44 to 47, the US economy grown a lot. Like US business cycle or US economic activity, aggregate economic activity increased very faster, and unemployment decreased to a very minimal level. Like you can see, wartime production brought the unemployment rate below 2% in the US economy. And now why does that happen? Because US has the industries that produce arms, weapons. So they are the suppliers of arms and weapons to rest of the countries who are involved in war. So in that time period, US economy has grown a lot because of this war. So that is why it is one of the major event in the US history. Real GDP almost doubled between 1939, when the recession ended, and 1944, until because this was the World War II time period. So US economy's real GDP doubled. So this is a brief history of US economy. So now I'll be more interested in talking about the business cycle facts. So if you just go through your book, uh, it the business cycle facts starts with the The business cycle facts start with the idea of Robert Lucas, who was a famous Nobel laureate, who said that all business cycles have common features. They have something in common. And how he he said that there are some macroeconomic variables that economists can use to predict the trough and peak, because it is hard to predict the overall business cycle. What they can do is, what at least they can do is, they can predict the timing of peak and trough. So they can do this by observing the behavior of variables relative to aggregate economic activity. Like, if the aggregate economic activity is improving, what kind of variables are improving with it, and what kind of variables are decreasing with it. So that is, they try to observe co-movement of variables and the timing of those variables, so that they can understand whether the economy is going to experience a trough, or it is going to experience a peak. So we have two things to consider when we are saying we are discussing about business cycle facts. Number one is, what direction does a variable move relative to aggregate economic activity? Now, what does that mean? It means that when the economy is expanding, when aggregate economy is improving, economy is going through a good time, production is expanding, employment is expanding, income is expanding, uh, and overall economy is performing well. Investment is expanding, businesses are buying more capital. So we would say that all these variables, all economic variables, are an economic variable which is moving in the same direction of business cycle. Like, when the economy is expanding, that variable is also expanding. We would call that variable as pro-cyclical. So a variable, an economic variable that moves in the same direction of the business cycle, is called uh, pro-cyclical. Like, when the economy is expanding, when the economy is improving, or when the economy is going through a good time, uh, businesses are expanding their production, and simultaneously there is an increase in the investment by the businesses as well. So we would call investment as a pro-cyclical variable, because it is moving in the same direction of the aggregate economic activity. Similarly, uh, there are other variables like unemployment. So when the economy is expanding, unemployment is going to fall, and when the economy is contracting, unemployment is going to increase. So all the economic variable that moves in opposite direction of business cycle are considered as counter cyclical, because they are moving in opposite direction of economic activity. Like, we have unemployment. When the economy improves, unemployment falls, and when the economy is going through a recession or it reaches to a trough, unemployment increases to its peak. So that variable is counter cyclical. A third direction variable, a third type of direction that you can see is acyclical. Acyclical means a variable that does not show a clear pattern. Like, when the economy is improving, it is staying the same, or when the economy is decreasing, it is even staying the same, or there are no clear patterns. So that is why this is all about the direction that is important in understanding what variables move along with business cycle, and what are the variables that are moving in opposite of that business cycle's direction. So this kind of information helps us in understanding or predicting at least the trough and peak of business cycle. After direction, understanding the direction, we need to understand the timing of variables movement. Like, what is the timing of variables movement relative to business cycle? So an economic variable is said to be a leading variable when its trough and peak arises before the trough and peak of business cycle. What does that mean? A variable is said, like, leading variable is the inflation. Whenever the economy is expanding, inflation would also expand. Leading variable can be income, real wage. When the economy is expanding, real wage will also be like, real wage will be expanding. Or inflation is a leading variable, because when the economy is going to expand, prices are going to expand in advance of it. So the peak and trough of inflation comes even before the peak and trough of business cycle. Although like generally when you talk about generally in or in real sense, leading variable is a variable that whose peak and trough comes even before the business cycle. So so we can say that all the variables whose peak and trough comes before the peak and trough of business cycle are known as leading variable, and coincident variable are the variables whose peak and trough comes at the same time when the business cycle is also experiencing the peak and trough. And lagging variable is a one whose peak and trough comes after the peak and trough of business cycle. So this is these two are the important business cycle facts. Like first, you need to know the direction of movement of the variable, and then you need to know list देख लेते हैं, don't worry. So we can see that now this is a summary about the facts of business cycle. Now you can read it from your book as well. So the production which represents the supply of the economy. So industrial production is an aggregate variable that represents the overall industrial production in the country. So that variable by direction is pro-cyclical, which means what? The trough, oh sorry, the pro-cyclical means the industrial production is a variable that moves in the same direction of the business cycle. Like when the economy is improving, when the economy aggregate economic activity is improving, economy is experiencing a kind of up rise in economic activity, industrial production will also rise at the same time. And when the economy is contracting, experiencing a recession, industrial production will fall. And that variable by timing is a coincident variable, which means that peak and trough of industrial production comes at the same time when the business cycle is also at the experiencing a trough and peak. So when the aggregate economic activity is at its peak, industrial production will also be at its maximum value. And when the industrial production is when the economy is experiencing a recession, the industrial production will keep on falling. When the economy business cycle aggregate economic activity is at a trough, the industrial production will also be at its minimum point. So this is how we can define the coincident and pro-cyclical. Now there's a difference between nature of goods, like durable goods industries, all those industries that are producing cars, automobiles, electronic appliances, houses. So these industries are most severely affected, are these are very sensitive to economic condition. The demand for cars, houses, and electronic appliances falls more quickly than the demand for non-durable goods which are short-lived items. So when the economy is hit by a recession or economy is contracting, the demand for electronic appliances, houses, and all such products is going to decrease more quickly than the demand for non-durable goods and services. So this is what the difference is. And when you talk about expenditure, the first component of expenditure is by expenditure, I mean aggregate demand. Production means aggregate supply. So production represents supply and expenditure represents demand. So first variable is consumption. Consumption moves in the same direction of the business cycle. Consumption increases when economy is expanding and consumption decreases when economy is contracting. So that is why it's a pro-cyclical variable. And consumption is at its peak when the economy has arrived at its peak, and consumption is at its trough when the economy is at its trough. So when the economy is going through a recession, consumption would be falling, and in this way, consumption peak and trough is occur at the same time of the trough and peak of business cycle. Next, we have business fixed investment. So this is the investment by the businesses uh, on purchasing equipment, plant, software, furniture. So this is the firm's purchases of equipment, plant purchases. This is the investment by firm on capital goods. And this variable is also pro-cyclical, which means it moves in the same direction of the business cycle. And what does that mean? It means when the economy is performing better, business fixed investment is going to rise. Businesses are going to buy new capital. And the peak and trough of business fixed investment also comes at the same time when the business cycle is experiencing a peak and trough. So that is why it's a coincident variable as well. Similarly, residential investment, which is the investment by businesses on building houses, is also a pro-cyclical variable because it is also sensitive. It is also affected by it also moves in the same direction of the business cycle. That is why it's a pro-cyclical variable and is a leading variable. When the good economic times have started, the investment in residential investment would rise. So this is one way to predict that good economic times are about to come, because leading variable conveys that information. Now, inventory investment is the component of overall investment. So inventory investment is the stock of unsold goods. So stock of unsold goods is going to increase when the economy is expanding, and stock of unsold good is going to decrease when the economy is falling, recession. So inventory investment is a leading variable because it can be a leading variable means inventory investment peak and trough comes before the peak and trough of business cycle. Inventory investment might increase to a maximum value even before the economy has arrived to its maximum peak, because businesses are producing faster than the demand of the consumer. That is why industries are going to pile up. Government purchases. Government purchases are also pro-cyclical by direction, which means that government purchases are going to move in the same direction of the business cycles. And the timing is unclear, ambiguous, right? So you can see consumption, investment, and government purchase all are the component of demand. That is why all they are lumped together in expenditure. But if you just compare consumption and investment expenditure, you would find that investment is more sensitive to business cycles. Like investment quickly decrease when the economy is going to experience a recession compared to consumption. Similarly, investment quickly pickups when the economy is going to experience a good economic time or progress. That is called expansion. So if we have to see the labor market variables, we can see that employment is a pro-cyclical variable because it moves in the same direction. And employment is a coincident, which means peak and trough of employment variable, it's a variable relating to labor market, comes at the same time of the peak and trough of business cycle. Why? When the economy is at its peak, employment is also at its peak. And when the economy is at its trough, employment will also be at its trough. That is why it's a coincident variable. Unemployment is a counter-cyclical variable, which means it moves in the opposite direction of the business cycle. When the economy is expanding, unemployment will fall. And when the economy is contracting, decreasing, unemployment will rise. But its timing is unclassified. It's not mentioned. Similarly, average labor productivity is the output per unit of labor input. It is pro-cyclical. When good economic times are being experienced, industries will start producing more. There would be economic expansion and labor productivity will also rise in that time. And it's a leading variable because it can be used to, it's a leading variable because average labor productivities rise even before the peak and trough of business cycle. So that can be used as an information set for predicting that good times are about to come because average labor productivity has started improving over the period of time. Real wage is also pro-cyclical and its relationship is ambiguous. Money supply and inflation. Money supply, the amount of money in circulation, is pro-cyclical. which means it moves in the same direction of the business cycle. And money supply is a leading variable. When the good times are experienced by the economy, the supply of money will be expanding in that good period of times. So it's a leading variable. Inflation is a pro-cyclical by direction, and inflation is a lagging variable. Now, what does that lagging means? When the economy is going to arrive at the peak, inflation peak will arise after the peak of business cycle. So when the aggregate economic activity has already arrived to its peak, inflation peak will be observed after later after the peak of business cycle. Similarly, when the economy is experiencing a recession, inflation will be observed to be falling after the minimum point or trough of the business cycle. That is why it's a lagging variable. And in financial variable, stock prices are pro-cyclical and they are leading. Similarly, nominal interest rate is a pro-cyclical and is lagging. Real interest rate is acyclical and is ambiguous. That part of our chapter. So we will be now, so this is the list of coincident and pro-cyclical variable, which we have already described. So you may view it from your book as well. So these are the graphs. Like you can see that industrial production index is plotted over the period of time. And here it is mentioned that it is pro-cyclical. You can see that why it is called pro-cyclical, because the business cycle is like industrial production is falling when the economy is contracting, aggregate economic activity is contracting. It reaches to a trough when the economy is also at the trough. So it's a pro-cyclical variable. Industrial production expand when the economy improve. Industrial production contracts when the economy is going to experience a contraction. And the peak and trough, like here you can see 1950, there's a peak. And then after 51, there's a trough. So peak and trough of business cycle and the peak and trough of industrial production occurs at the same time. So this is how you can use series to show your concept. So let's talk about. So these are already given in the book. You may read it from the book. So I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about what explains business cycle fluctuations. Now I'll be discussing two major components of business cycle theories. Number one is a description of shocks, because shocks are events that are going to create a deviation between what country was trying to achieve and what it has achieved. Deviation, which we are calling business cycle. So every shock is going to cause a business cycle. Like your book has mentioned that uh, when the consumers are going to get pessimist about the future of the economy, so they are going to reduce their purchases, right? So with the decline in their purchases, consumption is going to fall, aggregate demand is going to fall, and economy will fall into a recession. Now, this pessimism has resulted a kind of recession in the economy. Now, as a policymaker, what is the job of like what kind of policy you would be recommending the government to employ and to bring back the economy to its potential level, to the natural level of output? So this is what we are going to describe. First, we'll be trying to uh, understand or describe the shock and how it will be affecting the economy. And once we have understanding of it, we can employ the relevant policies to minimize the impact of that shock on output and employment in the country. So we have two major business cycle theories. One is classical theory, another is Keynesian theory. Classical theory is based on the idea that to fight the recession, because the gap between production and consumption, which is equal to saying that gap between demand and supply, is temporary. And why they believe that it is temporary? Because they have they said that in the long run, prices and wages will quickly adjust, and any shock, any gap between the demand and supply will be adjusted in a very shorter period of time. So there would be minimal loss of output in the uh, economy. If, like classical said, that if the economy deviates from its maximum potential, so prices and wages will quickly adjust to bring back the economy to its natural position. So there's no need of government, like there's limited role of government that they recommended. But on contrary, Keynesian says, Keynesians have the Keynesians provided the idea that we cannot let the let the economy at the mercy of markets, because they said that we agree with the classical view. Keynesian are saying that we are agreeing with the classical view that in the long run, prices and wages are quickly adjustable, and every shock that has caused a gap between demand and supply, production and spending, will be corrected in a very shorter period of time. But they say that in the short run, it might be possible that the gap between production and spending, demand and supply, might not adjust very quickly and might result in a larger decline in output and a rise in unemployment. So to curtail that problem, to manage that, to reduce the output loss and to reduce unemployment, what the government can do, government can intervene and help the economy get back to its equilibrium. So this is how we are going to review the government policy from the classical and Keynesian perspective. Now, you need to keep two things in mind. Classicals are saying limited role of government to fight the recession, because they believe that markets have the self-adjusting capacity. And why they believe this? Because they know that prices and wages are quickly adjustable. Every shock will be temporary, and it would be backed by the adjustment of prices and wages, and economy will be again back to its normal situation in a very shorter period of time. But Keynes are arguing that no, we cannot let the market at the mercy, or let the economy at the mercy of uh, the the markets, because markets might not adjust as quickly as classicals are saying, at least in the short run. So they are saying at least in the short run, but they are not denying the long run idea. So we'll be using aggregate demand and supply framework to understand, to explain these two ideas. Now, before I need to give you some illustration of it. So do you got, so do you got the idea? Like Y bar is a potential GDP. This GDP is to be achieved in the long run when all the resources are completely used. And this actual GDP is a current year GDP. So Y is actual GDP and Y bar is a potential GDP. So when the economy is experiencing recession, recession means economy is producing less than its capacity. So the current year production is only 700, and the maximum that the economy could are able to achieve is 1000. So the gap between these two is output gap. So this is how we define the business cycle. So economy has contracted from its potential. All right, now we need to bring in the scenario. So we'll be doing some, we'll be using aggregate demand and aggregate supply model to analyze the business cycle, ADAS model, to analyze business cycle. So we are going to analyze the business cycle. Now ADAS model shows long run and short run equilibrium. ADAS model shows what? Long run and short run equilibrium.
So I'm directly coming to diagram, and then I'll be bringing in the situation into the discussion. So first we need to understand what do we mean by long run and short run equilibrium. So in the long run, because in the long run, economy is at its potential. In the long run, economy is at its potential. So this is long run aggregate supply, and output Y is equal to Y bar. So this is the maximum amount of output that an economy can produce with all the resources available in the current period of time. So this is a long run aggregate supply, and it is vertical because in the long run, prices and wages are flexible, and economy will mix economy. If prices and wages are flexible, every shock that hits the economy will be adjusted accordingly, and there would be no impact on the output in the long run. So that is why the supply in the long run is constant. So we can draw negative slope aggregate demand curve, and we know that in microeconomics we had a discussion on a consumer's demand curve or a market demand curve. But this aggregate demand is a demand of an economy. So this is a demand by household, which is going to represent aggregate consumption. This aggregate demand is also going to represent the business demand, the demand by businesses, and the government's demand. So this aggregate demand is a combined demand for macroeconomy. So this is a demand, aggregate demand is a overall total demand by households, by businesses, investors, and by the government. So combinedly, this is being represented by a negative slope curve. Now this curve is negative slope because if the inflation is going to go up, if inflation is going to go up, aggregate demand is going to fall. If P1 is this much, Y1 is this much. If P1 decreases, aggregate demand would increase from, if the P1 prices decrease from P0 to P1, aggregate demand increases from Y to Y2. So that is why it's a negative slope curve. Now we need to add one thing. And what is that? It is simply here the long run aggregate supply and aggregate demand are uh, intersecting at this point. So we will call it long run equilibrium. But the book has also included short run supply curve in this. And we know that the long run supply curve belongs to the classical's idea, and the short run supply curve that we are going to add here is going to belong to the Keynesian's idea. Why? Because in short run, prices and wages are slow to adjust. So it means that in short run, prices are going to remain fixed. Now let's understand it, why the price may not change in very short run. Suppose an ice cream seller who is offering ice cream at a price of 100 for a particular day. Let's say on Monday, the ice cream seller is willing to sell as many ice cream as he has available, or the price that he is going to charge for 1 unit of ice cream is 100, and he can sell this much ice cream. If the demand is this much, he can sell this much ice cream. If the demand is this much, he can sell this much ice cream. Even this much ice cream can be sold if this much is demand, and he can also sell this much ice cream. So he can sell uh, any units of ice cream depending on the demand in the market, but the price is going to remain fixed for only 1 day. And after 1 day, the seller is going to experience that price is 100 again fixed, but the demand is more than let's say the capacity of seller to supply. Let's say seller was able to supply only, let's say, 1000 units of ice cream, right? So seller was able to supply this much units of ice cream at a price of 100, but the demand is, let's say, 1500. Now this is going to create a problem in the short run, because in the short run, this seller cannot meet this supply because his resources are not allowing him to produce 1500 units. He has only the resources of producing 1000 units, right? So what will happen in the long run? In the long run, all the sellers will decide to raise the price and when the seller would start raising the price, when seller would raise the price this up to this much, aggregate demand would fall. Aggregate demand would fall in this way, like if aggregate demand was this much, aggregate demand would fall to this much by reduction in price, right? And by reduction in price, aggregate demand would fall to this much, and this would be the value of aggregate demand. So then in the similar fashion, let me just redraw this. Let me just redraw this. So I'm going to use this model to describe the business cycle. So these are prices, this is output, and we had a long run aggregate supply, which is going to represent a long run output, which is equal to Y bar. And we had a short run aggregate supply, which is horizontal and is fixed. And we have a negative slope aggregate demand. So we can better if we would draw it this way. So this is a negative slope aggregate demand curve. Now this is the long run and short run both equilibrium. So what we said is, if in the short run, if the seller is selling output at this price and he's continuing to experience, earlier his capacity was to produce, let's say, he can supply whatever amount of output, ice cream output at this price. But if the demand is going to exceed his productive capacity, or the amount of ice cream he can supply in a day at this fixed price is lesser than the amount people are willing to demand on daily basis. So in the long run, all the sellers would adjust the price. So let's say, suppose that in current time period, demand is larger than supply. So in long run, sellers are going to raise the price. So when the price would be raised up, so when the price is going to be raised up, aggregate demand would fall. Like aggregate demand would fall to if this was the earlier equilibrium, let's say demand has increased, demand is this much, but seller supply capacity is this much. So what will happen in the long run when the seller starts rising prices, just to make sure that they will be able to supply? So aggregate demand would contract back to its original level, which was Y bar, and again at this price, aggregate demand and supply will be equal in the long run. So this is the importance of this model, aggregate demand and aggregate. So this is aggregate demand, and this is aggregate supply in the short run, and this is aggregate supply in the long run. So this long run aggregate supply is representing classical's view that in the long run, prices and prices are quickly adjustable. So any gap in the demand and supply will be adjusted by the market forces itself, and economy will be back to its original equilibrium. So we can see it from here.